Hello and welcome to Bread of Life. Our speaker for this week is Pastor Oral Blackstock of Hartford.
Hello. Thank you for joining me. Oral Blackstock of First Church of God, Hartford, here with you. Have you noticed that the longer you live, the more information and experience there is to be absorbed? The words of my parents are certainly becoming real, that life is a classroom all by itself. A missionary from the U.S. recently went on a mission trip to the Caribbean, Jamaica to be specific. A prayer was offered by a team member for God to bless the meal and those who prepared it, and then each member collected his or her plate and proceeded to a table of their choice to dine. As was customary in his homeland, the missionary took the salt shaker and sprinkled a copious amount of salt on his meal, even before tasting it. Then he took up his fork and started his banishment of the meal. After several moments of taking in and chewing for a brief while, he discovered the glaring truth. The food was just too salty. A member of the team who caught the tail end of his act humorously chided him for adding salt to a meal that was already cooked with salt. Fortunately, the cooks had ample amount and his serving was replaced with another that was good to the taste. He learned one major lesson: the food in Jamaica is already cooked with salt. As I reflected on the incident, my mind went racing and I had to do it. Yes, you're right, to do a little research on salt. I found out that there are 6 functions of salt. 1, a food preservative. 2, a texture enhancer. 3, a flavor enhancer. 4, a nutrient source. 5, a binder. And 6, a color enhancer. I must confess that of the 6, the 2 major ones that was consciously aware of are as preservative and as a flavor enhancer. It is really true that the more you live, the more you learn. The missionary to Jamaica was doing the right thing, but in the West Indian culture, the wrong way. The salt was being sprinkled onto the food. This means that the food did not benefit from its presence. In fact, depending on the food, it could easily roll off because it was on the outside. The food received maximum benefit from the salt when the meat, for example, is seasoned with the salt way ahead of cooking. In this way, the flavor is enhanced by its presence. Jesus admonished his disciples in Matthew 5:13 when he stated, "Ye are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless." You and I are living in environments today in need of God's seasoning. Many things are being used to create a pleasing taste, but they are not long-lasting because they are being sprinkled on. In fact, if we are honest, there is not enough intermingling of God's seasoning so that the presence of godliness can be marinated into our societies. We are called by the master chef himself to make a difference and not lose our influence. One interesting observation that I remember as a child was that my grandparents would literally oversalt a piece of meat to make its shelf life longer. There was no refrigerator to freeze this unusual meat, so the salt was the preservative. Our schools, workplaces, even churches should be preserved if the salt maintains its saltiness. What then do we bring to our world today? Thanks for asking. Use the seasoning that God has provided in form of the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22-23. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Are you making a difference in your world through Christ and for Him? Don't lose your saltiness. Until tomorrow at the same time with lessons from life's classroom, this is Oral Blackstock for Bread of Life.
You've been listening to Pastor Oral Blackstock of Hartford, and this has been Bread of Life, a program to encourage you from God's Word.